All right, so welcome in CBS Sports NBA insider Bill Reiter. James Harden had a triple-double in his Nets debut last year, nearly had a triple-double in his 76ers debut, 27 points, 12 assists, 8 rebounds in 35 minutes. Bill, the beard looked great. What'd you see from him?
Yeah, he looked exceptional. It took, and this is to be expected, I thought 3 or 4 minutes, he looked a little out of sorts, and then you said it clicked immediately. And there's a long ways to go between here and that trade for Daryl Morey, the head of basketball operations for the Sixers, to be a success. But you can see why that photo went viral of Daryl Morey just clutching onto James Harden when James Harden arrived in Philly like a long-lost best friend, because what Harden does and the offensive firepower he brings to that team, and that really Philly needs. They're a middle-of-the-road offense before Harden showed up. You saw it on display in this game. You talked about the triple-double. The scoring was incredible. And just to keep for me, the way he fit into that offense, how comfortable he looked, I thought he and Embiid, at least in the first game, played really well together. No issues of those two guys want to be at a different pace of play. It's a early but very bright start for the Harden era in Philadelphia.
Yeah, you're really right. He certainly elevated that offense. Harden is a former MVP. Joel Embiid is the current favorite to win MVP. He's never played, though, with a ball-dominant player like James Harden. Still got his on this night. Got a double-double, did Joel Embiid. What's the addition of Harden mean for Embiid?
Well, it's going to be really interesting. I think that'll be one of the 2 or 3 keys to whether or not Philly makes a really, really deep run. And for Philly and Brooklyn, who they obviously made the trade with to acquire Harden, you have to make the finals at a minimum for this to be successful. I think for Philly, that's a 2-year window. If Embiid can still be the guy that has the highest usage rate on the team most of the games, let's say 4 or 5 of the games if a series goes to 7 games in the postseason, and is the most important players, 1A to Harden's 1B, I think it's going to work out really, really well. What will be interesting to see as Harden gets in the groove, as he gets more comfortable, as the honeymoon period in this new relationship goes away, is he going to be just able, his style of play, to understand that Joel Embiid, at least today, is the first or second best player in the game. He's the first or second vote getter if the vote happened today in the MVP race. And that means that Harden's going to have to take a back seat and know when to do that. If that can happen, if Embiid basically is the same player with a little bit less usage rate, the ball in his hands a little bit less, but is still the main guy, and Harden can supplement offensively from there, it's going to be great for Joel Embiid. If not, it'll be interesting to see whether or not they're in rhythm together when it really matters in April.
And right, that's the headline, right? How's James Harden going to coexist with Joel Embiid, 2 guys who want the basketball in their hands? But how about a guy like Tyrese Maxey, the young guard? How does Harden help elevate his game?
Well, look, I thought, and you and I talked about this earlier, I thought Maxey looked incredible in that game, and there's a reason that Philadelphia felt pretty good about letting Seth Curry go. They love what they have in Maxey, and I think Maxey's the guy who benefits regardless of what happens, because Joel Embiid, we know, is good enough, even against double teams, to be a dominant force in the NBA. Harden's on a minimum decline, but he's good enough to be an extraordinary player. Now Maxey doesn't have to be the second most important offensive weapon on this team, and so if you're an opposing defense, you have to double Joel Embiid or James Harden. You have to deal with those 2 guys in the pick and roll, which is going to be really difficult to defend because they're both so skilled and they line up so perfectly in that respect that Maxey's going to get lots of space, lots of open shots, lots of opportunities to cut to the basket and use that jumper. I think what we saw from Maxey tonight potentially is the signs of not just him being really effective, he's been that, but for life to be a lot easier for him because he can be the third option and not have to deal with the same level of defensive pressure he might have if there's no Harden here.
You know I'm a Cavaliers fan, but this 76ers team, they could be dangerous in the playoffs for sure. And as you said, Philadelphia's quest for a title is going to depend on the dynamic/relationship between Harden and Embiid rest of way here. What's at stake for James Harden in Philadelphia?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a massive, massive legacy reality for James Harden and for Daryl Morey, who brought him in. He's going to get a max deal of 5 years. He's going to make $62.5 or $63 million a year in his 5th year when he's 37. And if you look at where he's at now as a 32-year-old and the real decline that happens for guys that play his position the way that he's built, it's probably a 1-year or 2-year window for Philadelphia. And that means it comes down to, you're right, can these guys play together effectively? How much does Harden's presence and a lack of Simmons' presence in the postseason affect them defensively? I don't think it'll be a ton. I think they're still going to be really effective. And the big one, Akeem, not taking shots at Harden, but I think what we saw tonight is what we've come to expect from James Harden. He is a force of nature. He's a transcendent talent in the regular season offensively. Hasn't always been true in the postseason. And the expectations and the pressure, the fact Philly has to make a finals, they have to win most or all the series they play in the postseason, means James Harden's going to have to be extraordinary, at least in a couple games per series. And when the pressure's been on in the past, And when he's gotten his team, and he's been the guy to get them there to the cusp of greatness, Harden's had some real duds. And so I think to live up to those expectations, the question's not just is Harden and Embiid fit. I think they will in the regular season, but does it work, and is Harden able to step up in that moment in the playoffs? In a way, frankly, he hasn't always been able to do when he was in Houston on the door of the finals.
Yeah, he's got to take the next step for sure as the 76ers try to continue this narrative of trust the process, looking to win their first NBA title since 1983. Bill Reiter breaking down for us here on CBS Sports HQ as James Harden goes for a near triple-double in his 76ers debut. So it's instant impact with James Harden in the lineup. Look, they played the Minnesota Timberwolves, who like to run up and down the floor, so they're going to give up a lot of points. They scored 133 in this game, only gave up 102 to the T-Wolves. They're playing defensively really well. That's one of the things that the 76ers do well, is play great defense. James Harden, 27 points, 12 assists, 8 rebounds in his 76ers debut.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.